I'm teasing. So I'd like to keep things a little bit more informal. It's supposed to be interactive, engaged, talk together. This is not just a one-way monologue. This is supposed to be a dialogue. We can only solve problems if we participate and if we talk together, if we're honest, whether the information that we share is easy to hear or not. But that's how we really get to the bottom of issues, and that is how we find solutions to the things that we face as Africans. And technology is there to serve people, which means that we are all here today because we are serving people out there that rely on connectivity. And that's something that we've got to keep in the back of our minds always. I'm always surprised when we go to these events and I look at the amount of people in the room, and I always think, these are the people that are making decisions for entire societies out there. We are the ones that are deciding how fast, how slow, how good we are doing things for our communities and our people. So we've got a really big responsibility on our shoulders, and it's important that we use these opportunities to engage. But yes, enough about me. Please connect, as Madan said, with us on LinkedIn. As we introduce our speakers, I'm going to start on my far left. Just a quick introduction, who you are, where you're from, and what your day job looks like. And then we're going to dive into some questions.
Thank you. My name is Amos Bwire. I'm head of network operations for HONORA, also known as Tigo Zantel. My day-to-day job is to manage the whole network, to make sure that you guys are having network availability, network quality, and also network assurance. As you know, Tigo, apart from just traditional voice, SMS, as well as data services, we are also providing mobile financial solutions, MFS, is known as Tigo Pesa. But also we have other Tigo business solutions, FTTH, FTTX, and just to name a few. Thank you. I'm looking forward to a very healthy conversation, and I believe I'm here for as much as to share, but also to learn from all of you guys. Thank you.
Welcome, Amos.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm in chairperson. My name is Prosper Mafole, and I work with Airtel Tanzania as a Chief Technical Officer. And my daily duties is mainly to run the operation of the organization, basically managing the network, and also advise on the strategy, where should the company head technologically. Yes, apart from the basic GSM and Airtel Money, we are also venturing in critical ICT infrastructure, like cable landing stations, data centers, and optic fiber network. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Arjun Dhillon. I'm the director for Vodacom business at Vodacom Tanzania. And unlike my brothers on my left, I'm the first non-engineer on the panel while they are building and fixing networks. My job is to congest and choke the network and sell things on that network and transform customers' lives through connectivity. So at Vodacom, we believe in connecting for a better future, and part of our vision is to provide solutions to both businesses as well as home users to connect to the digital world, as well as we have a financial services platform called M-Pesa. Besides that, we also have IoT tech solutions. We have an IoT stack in country. We have data centers, and we provide a whole gambit of services for businesses to automate themselves, and look forward to a fruitful discussion today. Thank you.
Nice to be here in Zanzibar. It's my first time to step here, so I'm enjoying every bit. My name is Nkusi. I'm the CEO for One ABC, my side. I have one slide to introduce myself. So we have to work smarter, not harder sometimes, like that. One Africa broadband connectivity is part of liquid intelligent technologies. What do we do? We dream when we are sleeping, when we are awake, to have everybody in Africa connected, being Africa's digital future. That's what you are seeing on the screen. My day-to-day work is traversing the continent and working along those lines, those small lines you see. So we put fiber from Cape to Cairo, from Port Sudan to Khartoum to Chad, we go to Cameroon. I'm happy also to announce that we've done just one of the most difficult, from Nairobi, Tororo, Kampala, Kigali, Goma, Kinshasa, all the way to Rwanda, Angola, connecting the East and the West, all the way to Fortaleza and Miami, making transit times very short. In a nutshell, we are not telecom anymore. We are digital innovation. We are big in cybersecurity. We are big in data centers. We are big in cloud systems. And we aim to be bigger. And one reason for me being here is we cannot achieve it, any of those, without working with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to start with a couple of questions, and Arjun, I want to start with you, really from a Vodacom point of view. Obviously, every single person that's sitting on the stage today has made a significant investment in telecommunications infrastructure, continue to do so, oftentimes, and we're going to speak about that just now, against, in some adverse conditions. But because we're talking about money and the amount of money that's being invested in the sector, I wanted to just talk a little bit about the use cases of the investment that we're making. I mean, depending on where you are in the world, there's different conversations around why we need, and the minister did an absolutely phenomenal speech this morning. I just want to say, if he was standing for president, he's got my vote, because that's really the utopia of the fourth industrial revolution. Those are absolutely what we want to see. But in practice, it doesn't always work like that on the ground. And in some countries, we're talking about autonomous driving. I live in South Africa. The taxi industry is never going to work. We're just like, heaven help all of us. But what are some of the visions that a company like Vodacom's got for its citizens? What are the drivers? Like, why do you wake up in the morning and say, hey, we've got to reach every single person in Tanzania and make sure, and on the island, and make sure that they've got connectivity?
Thanks for that question, and very well framed. I think you answered, the way you highlighted some of the challenges that people face because of lack of connectivity in Tanzania. There are only 35% of the entire population approximately has access to smartphones. So autonomous driving, etc., I guess, is the fancy stuff that we all like to see on TV, etc., which is one of the use cases for technology. But I think the primary use cases for a market like Tanzania is providing citizen services to the entire population of the country. Today, with the lesser smartphone penetration, there is the government or any other service provider struggling to provide services right down to the last mile and to the last citizen. At Vodacom, we believe in leading Tanzania into the digital age and connecting for a better future. And part of that is to provide more and more access to data and internet to a wide part of the nation. We are doing this by firstly expanding our network and investing billions of shillings or billions of dollars actually on our network. We, since inception, have invested over $2 billion on our network in Tanzania. We were the first country to roll out, first network to roll out both 4G and 5G in the market. We were not only the first operator, and as Tanzania, I think it's one of the few markets probably in East Africa where many of the operators have 5G live networks, which I think is a big chip on all the Tanzanian operators. If I'm not wrong, 3 operators today have active 5G networks. Look around East Africa, I don't think many countries have that. And it's happening because more and more people want to get connected on the internet. Tanzania's broadband internet penetration, you live in South Africa, you probably see a lot of homes connected to fiber. A lot of people have access to fiber. In Tanzania, less than 2% of the population has access to broadband fiber at their homes or their offices. So the opportunity is immense. We see Tanzania growing from this 2% to about 50 to 60% penetration in the coming 4-5 years. And if we don't invest accordingly, somebody else is going to actually go and take away that market because more and more consumption of data is going to happen. Lastly, from my side, another interesting fact about Tanzania is the data consumption on videos, streaming, etc., is extremely high. Not only for the country, but also if you look at it on a global percentage, it's pretty high. On a per capita basis, Tanzanians with a smartphone tend to consume a lot of data. They tend to watch a lot of videos, tend to use a lot of social media. So the people in Tanzania are more and more adapting to the internet, and although it's I think up to the operators to provide them that access and provide them with the smartphones. The last thing I want to talk about is I think smartphone penetration, which remains one of the key roadblocks to increasing data penetration. We at Vodacom are trying to make smartphones more and more affordable for our customers, trying to make them installment based so that the device can be financed and people can pay for the device on a day-to-day basis. Initiatives like this, I think, would really help drive up the data consumption in the country. Thank you.
So much. That's talking about smartphone penetration obviously is like critical. Connectivity is one part. We have to have access to content. We have to have access to devices, because without that ecosystem, naturally we're not solving any problem. And affordability, I think, is a big issue. So any solutions in that regard is important, and that's one of the major obstacles. But Prosper, I want to ask you in terms of obstacles and focusing on some of the challenges, to not just access to smartphones, but some of the other challenges from your point of view. How far really are we in terms of connectivity? How far do we have to go? What are some of those challenges that we still have to overcome?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before I jump to the challenges, which we usually like to talk about challenges, I would like to talk about how far are we from having everybody connected. This country has a vision of having each and every citizen, at least 80% of each and every one of us connected to the mobile broadband by 2025. Now, where are we? If you look at TCRA data as of June this year, the mobile broadband penetration is still very low. For 3G, for example, if we talk about population coverage, we are standing at 72%. And if we talk about geographical coverage by 3G technology, as an industry, we are sitting at 62%. And as we expect, 4G will be much lower, whereby as far as geographical coverage by 4G technology is sitting at only 50%, and by population we are sitting at 65%. Now, to answer your question, our target is to be at least 80% by next year, and now we are sitting at an average of about 65%. So we still have a long way to go, and if you compare with the other markets, still we have some things to do. However, this should not pass as it is. We need to look at how we have come up to this. We were very, very much low. We have moved about 20% from the target. But how did we get here? So in my view, I feel we have two wide drivers. One is the governance, legal, policy, regulatory environment, which I feel is quite enabling in this particular country. And the second part is on the infrastructure development. So I will drop the legal and regulatory environment, and I will focus on the infrastructure development. And in infrastructure development, a number of things have happened. The first one, my colleague mentioned, it's heavy investment in modernizing our networks and upgrading them from 2G into 3G and 4G. And this significantly has extended the reach of broadband services to a big part of our citizens of this country. And now with the upcoming of 5G, as he mentioned, like at least three companies are already rolling out 5G. We expect 5G will improve the experience, not necessarily the reach, but the experience and download speeds. The second thing under the infrastructure development is the fiber rollout. And here I would like to particularly commend the National ICT Broadband Backbone and our colleague of ZICTIA. They have done massive investment, not just backhauling, but also the metro fibers. This has significantly enabled us to roll out technologies which are bandwidth hungry, and therefore we can offer this connectivity to a wider audience of this country. And from international perspective, the presence of the likes of CCOM, EASE, they have made it possible for us to extend these broadband services to our citizens. And as per TCRA, we are still underutilizing this capacity because the capacity is about, I think, 4.7 terabits per second. And as of June, we are only utilizing 1 terabits per second. Even then, another CLS was launched just recently, a submarine cable landing station, basically to extend the capacity and to provide the resilience. And I think future looking, we are heading in the positive direction towards closing this target and even closing it. And another something which has come up recently, which used to be obstacle, if you would say, but I will call it a challenge. It's the right of way fees, which has now gone down significantly. And therefore, looking forward, I see us attaining the 80% broadband coverage. And the third point that I would also like to share with the audience and discuss a little bit is on infrastructure sharing. If you share infrastructure, 2-3 companies, definitely the running costs go down and the end user is being benefited. It also saves us time in terms of rolling out and building these towers. So 2 things have happened. In the past, everybody used to cling to their own towers. Now we are all sharing towers. We have new entrants in this sector of tower sharing, bringing in competition and therefore in a way optimizing the running cost and therefore enabling us to roll out quickly and reach a bigger area. Another aspect under the infrastructure sharing, we are seeing an entry of career neutral data centers. This is a good environment for CDNs so that we can collect a large number of information, process it, and make it available to our citizens. So looking forward, I see the 80% can be easily attained. And this is also shared not only by one partner. Now, a little bit on the obstacle. I don't want to call them obstacle. For me, I feel these are situations or basically issues which, when properly looked at, they can be addressed. In the past, when we extend the coverage of our services, we used to have issues of road access, power, availability, and so on and so on. But recently, in the last 1-2 years, we have seen a good uptake by the government in terms of policies and support in closing this. However, we are still remaining with, and that I think all of us are facing, And it's not really an obstacle, but it's a challenge. I want to call this as a low usage. You have already rolled out your broadband network, and the usage is still low. The usage per subscriber for Tanzania, as of TCRA latest report, is 2.5 gigabytes. If you compare with the average of sub-Saharan Africa, that is 4.6 gigabytes, almost half that one. Now, with all the investment these companies are working, trying to extend the coverage, and with this low usage, it becomes difficult to extend this coverage. So when we discuss meaningful connectivity, this is what comes to my mind. We connect people, we give them, and they also give it back to us. That's what makes a meaningful connectivity. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Sam, I'm going to come to you. And just so it's not so boring and, mixing it up a bit. The minister also spoke briefly about competition and, in South Africa, we're seeing the Competition Commission launching several inquiries into the market, trying to understand the market. Globally, there's few players per market. So it's not a cheap game to be in. So, we're seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions and smaller guys being absorbed because they run out of cash. How do you view the competition landscape? Do you think it's adequate? Do you think that there's enough competition?
That is a very easy, hard question. The population of Tanzania, I'm told, is close to 70 million. The figures my colleagues here have said that broadband connectivity is at 2%. And when you target to go to 8%, out of that population, 60 maybe percent are the youth who really want to use that connectivity there. So when you talk about, yes, is it an equal playing field? It's okay to talk about policy from a regulatory point of view and the good words of the minister. But how do you ensure that you walk the talk? We have a digital divide now. In Africa, it's good we are discussing it here in Tanzania. We have the rich who have the connectivity, and we have the poor that are yet to be connected. The devil, I've met very many devils. I will just, even in our work, access and affordability must be addressed. And that one is not from another. In my work, what I do, what I showed you on the slide, I've met animals, I've met crocodiles, I've met rebels, crossing the jungles. There's also another, sorry, one of my colleagues will forgive me, it's another devil called the regulator. Policies must be fair, transparent, and they must be consistent. You must be able to attract the investor. You must foster innovation. So if you have one entity, the infrastructure is run by, yes, the government agency. But also as players, we must be very fair. The government needs money for the first reason I told you, so that they can reach out to the last person. So clearly, when we are here and we are talking about, I had some words that were not very good. I've been in this industry for long. I've been a regulator, I've been minister for ICT, I've been the CEO. I'm an old man around the block. When we are still talking about 2G or 3G, That is sad. Why don't we define broadband in Africa as it is defined elsewhere in the world? Why do we still talk about 2G? Why do we aim to get to 10% of our population connected? It is criminal to have an African youth connected, and we aim for the next 5 years that we will have 1 MB, one connectivity of 1 Mbps. In Africa, we have had always the bad illusion. 20 times slower and 20 times more expensive. That used to be our 2020 vision. How do we change it? Moderator, really you have to assist us understand. Whenever we come to these meetings, and I've been in them now for the last 30-something years, we talk the same thing. You know, we are moving from this 1G, 2G, 3G. We talk till cows come home. I'm a farmer, I look after cows. But we should really move from that and move to the next step. And we need to do it yesterday and not today if Africa really has to move forward.
Thank you, brave man, for, I think, saying what a lot of people are thinking. But, you know, I find one of the frustrations that I have is the harmonization of policy across sub-Saharan Africa. There's a lot that needs to be done for investors. You know, we struggle in Africa to attract investment, and then we've got disparate and very diverse policy regimes. At the end of the day, as the minister said, we all want the same thing. We all want to connect everybody. So how come it's so difficult to have a policy environment that is harmonized? And then when you get to a country, you've not only got to face the national policies, now we've got to start drilling down into provincial policies, into regional policies, into municipal policies. So, you know, we are facing a tremendous amount of obstacles to deploy infrastructure. And, you know, we're going to lose some of the bigger investors who are giving up because their money is just costing them too much. Amos, we haven't come to you, but you're in the hot seat now because there's been quite a couple of questions. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about if we've got these problems, then what are some of the things that we can do as operators to accelerate broadband deployment, and what needs to change in the system, you know, to make sure that we have connectivity that's feasible for everybody.
Thank you, Juanita. Before I definitely echo to what actually was highlighted by my fellow colleagues here, I would like to take a small opportunity to applaud our government for implementing a number of major projects which actually were highlighted in our policies. As you can see, we have a national ICT policy of 2003, which highlighted a number of projects which we are looking at pushing us to a pure digital economy. So among these major projects, which were quite spearheaded by the government, was landing these two major overseas, across the sea fiber networks. As you know, we have CCOM, we also have the EASY, but also the national ICT broadband backbone. This actually was quite a revolutionary. As you can see, in around 2010, as also highlighted in the revised 2016 policy of the NICT, you'll see that by 2010, after implementing these two major projects, we managed to cut internet cost to around 50%. So you could see of which direction the government has been taking us. Looking back to 20 years ago and where we are today, we are quite moving towards the positive direction. However, we always actually have a number of things to be addressed. As we still all agree here that we have quite a major digital divide. Looking at Africa, not even Tanzania, today broadband penetration, it's just around 33%, while actually we are looking at going even beyond 70, 80%. Well, in Tanzania, we are quite higher than that, but still, we have a way to go. And one common area where all Africans share around this challenge is the disparity between the urban areas and the rural areas. Looking at Tanzania today, the disparity between the two, in the urban area, you will see the penetration goes to around 70% of broadband. But when you go to the rural areas, we are not very far from 20%. So you'll see there is still quite a divide. So to get to the question, I think I'm going to highlight a few areas which I will term as barriers, which we need to unlock. And also they call actually for the address even among the panel here, and even whoever is in this room as well. While actually the minister was making an excellent speech, to echo you as well, I was forced to jot down some of the very major points he highlighted on. I'm going to name a few, and frankly speaking, I had to scratch a number of things which I had in my head, and then to start thinking towards what he was talking about, starting with infrastructure. He hinted on the infrastructure. He highlighted for as much as we are executing projects, for as much as we are laying the backbones, for as much as we are putting new sites, for as much we are providing services to the customers, availability is also very key. He highlighted that as well. So today, NISTBB, the National ICT Broadband, is managing the fiber network across the country, talking of the backbone. But from MNO sites, you'll see that to deploy these fiber networks or to deploy sites, it's quite costful. Looking at the charges today, we can go up to even $6 per Mbps. And this is on the leasing side. So you can imagine if you are leasing just an Mbps for 6 to 9 USD, it's still expensive. And also looking at across Africa, we have some countries which are doing a little better. So this is one, and we are leasing this from the NISTBB. Now, the other area as well, we are building metro fiber as MNOs. These metro fibers are the rings of fibers which we normally build in the major cities and the major towns to connect the districts, the areas around these major towns, and ensure we cater for broadband requirements, because in the major cities and major towns, the requirement is quite high as compared to rural areas. So also, we have actually a right of ways which we normally pay. Thanks to the government, the cost has been cut. It was earlier around $1K, and now today it's around $100 per kilometer. So we thank the government for that. But still, when you look at it, if we manage actually to work around that, to cut that even more, it's going to add more penetration. Now, what is needed to be done? When the minister was talking here, I was thinking around the same. And I think if government manage to lower these charges, especially the lease charges on NISTBB, I think it's going also to help us to push more on broadband penetration, and then government can capitalize from these mass kilometers which are being laid out. Also another area which I think we should look at, shared infrastructure, which I think somehow even Honorable Minister highlighted on. When you build let's say, terrestrial fiber. It goes on you see these poles. But when you look at TANESCO, when they put they rectify, maybe we can even talk with the villages through even RARE project, which actually we all know, it has been there for a number of years now. These two can coexist technically. You can put fiber on the same infrastructure where you have electricity today. And this is not only for the broadband penetration, it can go even for FTTH businesses. It can go even for metro fiber itself around the major towns. So why this is also as important? Looking at cost of putting a fiber network today, the right of way itself. If you are laying a fiber, underground fiber, it costs around the 16K USD for just a kilometer. And actually, when you are putting on aerial, it's still not cheap. It's around 8 to 13 K dollars per kilometer as well. So this is not a small amount of money. Assume now we work together, and not only on government side, meaning let's say NISTPB to work with the TANESCO, but I'm going up to the level of MNOs through Triple P setup. We can work together as partners, and also even Honorable Minister highlighted the same, and make sure that whenever we deploy in the areas where we have TANESCO grid set, we can use the same infra to put the fiber network. This way, I believe, will also push us through. But now to highlight as well on the management side, he highlighted on availability. Just the stats which I have for the past 12 months, these same infrastructure we're talking about, fiber network, fiber backbone network, we had around 25% of cuts, which were merely caused by vandalism. It was not even an act of God. It was pure vandalism. From different reasons, people just come and they cut fiber. Some of them, because of lack of awareness, they might think it's just a copper wire, or they might think it's just a wire which is underground there. The guys are cutting, maybe farmers, maybe vandalists, but then it takes around 4 hours to restore this fiber. Imagine how many lives were lost and how many lives could have been saved if this guy was not to cut this fiber. Why I'm bringing this case here? I'm getting back to the same sharing infrastructure. I don't think there is anyone today who will dare to touch a TANESCO cable because they know there is death there. So if we put fiber on the same infrastructure as RARE, definitely fiber will be safe. Maintaining this fiber by itself is quite high. We are paying today 73K USD per month, per kilometer, to manage this fiber, to maintain this fiber, which someone just go there with a hacksaw and he cut a pole and he take, actually what they are doing, they're just taking that pole and they disappear with it. Maybe they are going to use it for cooking. So I think it's very important also to consider that. Also, I wanted to highlight on other areas as well, which was tax. It's okay that we have a small broadband penetration today, and the disparities I've highlighted between the urban areas and the rural areas. But thanks to government as well for coming up with these UXAF projects. We all know that just a couple months ago, government came up actually with a quite revolutionary project around UXAF for 758 sites to be built by MNOs, where we as Tigo also took a big chunk of it, and we are going to make sure we build those sites. But assuming now today, building one site, it costs an operator not less than 150K USD, just a single site. And to operate it on monthly basis, it costs us around $4K a month. So this is quite expensive as well. Now, if we manage to get some exemption from the government, like import duty relief, which today it's not less than, or it's around 20%. If we get some relief there, or if we even manage to waiver, particularly for these rural areas, projects, I believe we can deploy more sites even beyond the UCSAF sites. So I wanted to highlight that, but also to close on smartphone penetration. I think my brothers here highlighted very well. I don't want to talk much about that, but I believe we need device financing schemes, which I believe can also push us, and this should be a shared responsibilities, because we all know we are supposed, actually, based on our national development plans of Vision 2025, we are supposed to get to 80% of broadband penetration by year 2025, from where we are today, which is not very much far from 50% of penetration. So we need to also look at how are we going to support together these government ambitions. But lastly, but not least, as Minister also highlighted, it's very important to drive our nation towards being an ICT hub. When he highlighted this in his amazing speech, I captured it as well, and I started thinking and taking some few notes. Actually, we need to be very, very much innovative around this one. We need to have content available here, as well as apps, applications, which actually can drive us towards these catering for these data demands. But key drivers around the same, as my brother Prosper highlighted, career neutral data centers. This is very, very key. We need also to venture into this one, but also we need to have local content creators. We need to have local Netflix here. We need to have Boom Plays here. And we need to have something like Spotify as well here. So to me, as we are talking about digitalizing maybe government services, and also looking at education and healthcare, we need to be quite innovative and focus on having the whole of our nation towards being an ICT hub. Thank you.
Just wrap up. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, colleagues. This is a conversation that we can keep going on to talk about uptake, digital maturity, chicken and egg. What do we deploy first? Is it a build it and they'll come? The policy environment, there's a lot of takeaways out of this, the whole ecosystem of connectivity, submarine cables versus fiber versus, mobile or GSM connectivity and satellite connectivity and each one of its roles. I'd like to call it a if this, then that. If you pass this law, then we can do that. And sometimes I also think that private sector are their own worst enemies, because we are not proactive in putting that together and saying, government, this is what utopia would look like. So if you do this for us, then we can achieve these targets, and these are the kind of investments that we'll make. And maybe that's a takeaway that we can take from that, is to say, how do we come together as operators and craft a document that we can give to government to say, these are the things that are slowing us down. And if you can help us with these things, then this is the investment that we can make to achieve some of these investment targets. So I think that maybe that's a takeaway that we can do. Maybe we can sit around the table and have that conversation, craft that paper. A lot of this work has been done in all sorts of regions, and everybody's trying to come up with solutions, because we have to create an inclusive digital economy where everybody can equally participate and have access to this. I want to thank all of you for your time this morning. Thank you for coming. I was hoping we'd have a little bit more time. I had some more questions prepared for you, some curveballs. I'm joking, I don't do that. But thank you very much for your time, colleagues. It's been a pleasure to meet you, all of you, those that I haven't met before. It's been great, and thanks for having us in this beautiful island of yours.